really quickly, some safety stuff around tools. You'll notice that the shovel and the rake are both face down. You guys have probably seen cartoons where the rake is like this and somebody steps on it and what happens?
It's them.
So we want to make sure that anytime you're not using your tool, you have it teeth down. All of the trees that you see here are in rows, and we want to try to keep them as straight as possible so that when the city mows this area, they're not going to have a problem getting between the trees. So where you see the markers is where the tree goes.
There should be bright orange spot. They should be kind of in line. Even if the trees aren't in line right now, look where the orange spot is, and then when you're starting to dig, just try and line up with your neighbor. So like rows like this. So just kind of look down and make sure you're in the same line.
And then for planting the tree, you're gonna see, like there's two piles here. One of those is mulch. When you get to the tree, that pile will already be there. This is the one that you guys are gonna make, okay? So when you see your marker spot for your tree, what you're gonna do is measure the root ball of the tree using your tools. So the easiest way to do this is with your shovel, and you're basically going to put the end at the very edge of the root ball and then use the natural markers on the tool, like the bolts or the paint color, to kind of remember where your mark is. But you're going to look at right about where that is, so maybe the second bolt. Does that seem right? And then when you go to the hole, you're going to use your rake. This is the only time you get to put the rake teeth up. You're going to put it across to mark the center, and then you're going to put your shovel right in the middle. Basically, it needs to be about twice the width of the root ball-ish. And where did you mark it? Right here. So this is the middle, so we're going to put that right on the rake. We're about twice the width of the hole, right? So another way that you can do that is like this, and then check it there, just to be extra sure. And then you want to measure the height of your tree, and you're going to measure to the bottom. Like, you may have burlap wrapped around the base of the tree. That's not necessarily where the root ball is. You need to open that up and see where the actual bottom of the tree starts. We have a knife, and basically what you're going to do is, again, where do it go?
It's next to me.
Okay. You're going to use your tools again to see where it sits, and then mark it on your shovel so that you know how tall the root ball is. And then once you have that measurement, which is probably around,
Yeah, there's kind of like a nice
around here, you're going to, again, only time that you get to put your teeth up is like when you're measuring your hole. You're going to put it in, and it looks like they measured it perfectly, right? If not, you're going to adjust, but one of the other things that you want to notice about this hole is the bottom is flat. It's not a cone. So as you're digging, make sure that you keep your bottom flat so that you don't end up with a big air pocket under your tree. Then we can't fill that with soil. It becomes an air pocket where water can sit and bacteria can breed, and it's going to kill the tree. So we got to make sure that bottom is nice and flat so that when we put the tree in, it has full contact with the ground.
You also want to make sure that the soil at the bottom of the hole is kind of compacted a little too, because if you just measure it and it's all fluffy, when you drop the tree in there, the weight of that tree will compact it down, and so then the tree will actually sit lower than you measured to.
And you can just compact it by just getting in the hole, give a little stomp. When you are taking your soil out of the hole, make a pile separate from your compost and out of the path of the tree. These are very heavy. You're not going to be able to lift it and put it into the hole. We also don't want you to be dragging it by the stalk of the tree, because you can damage it. We're going to be actually grabbing the straps and kind of rolling it into the hole, so you got to have a road for that to roll on.
So the one thing we skipped, like when you first start digging the hole, the first layer, like the sod with the grass on it, keep that set. So we have this is like the top layer, right? This is all the sod that we kind of cut out. Just kind of skim the bottom. You can chop it up a bit. Yeah,
See,
so
there-
you
it
want big
comes
chunks
off
like that, and just keep that separate because we're not gonna put that back in the hole. We're gonna use that for something at the end. So keep your dirt, your sod, and your mulch or your 3 pots.
Cool. And then probably roll it into the hole. You want to grab the straps.
I'd rather.
So we're gonna leave that metal wire on there too?
Yeah,
Yep.
so all of the stuff that's on it, this is actually jute, it's not plastic, so this will biodegrade, this will biodegrade, this will biodegrade, so all of this is going to stay in the hole. Don't feel like you don't need to strip the root ball when you put it in the hole. Put it in like this, there's less chance that you might damage the root ball if you leave it on. Okay?
And then, so there's 2 times that you absolutely have to come check with us before you go to the next step. Before you put the tree in the hole, you need to come grab one of us in an orange vest or Steph in a brown overalls. And we'll kind of check the hole with you, make sure it's the right size. We just don't want you to put it in there and find out that it's the wrong size, and then we got to try and pull it out because it is a huge pain in the butt. So before you put the tree in, come grab us, and then we're the only ones that can use a knife. So when we go to unwrap it and cut it open, that's the other time you have to grab it. So those 2 times, absolutely have to grab a vest.
You want to make sure that the tree root ball is very heavy, so when it falls into the hole, that tree is going to spring up.
Yeah.
So make sure that you release it and move back.
Yeah.
Get out of the way.
I see a lot of people want to like steer from on this side and like bend themselves over the tree like this, and then they get a tree in the face when it goes in. So, good?
Yep.
Let's do it.
Cool. And then now that it's in the hole, we just kind of shimmy it to get it centered. Cool. And then I don't have a knife, but we're going to start cutting away the jute and straighten it. Does this look straight to you guys?
No.
No.
So what you need to do is look at your tree from 2 angles. Like if you think of the 4 directions. So you're going to look at it this way, and we can see that it's obviously like leaning a lot this way. The part that you're looking at is the base of the tree, so you can see the top is already kind of naturally growing, like maybe where it was growing the light was on that side and just kind of lean that way. We're looking at the bottom to see if that is straight. This is the part that matters. So you notice what he did is we kind of lifted it a little bit and shoved a little bit of dirt underneath to balance it out.
How does it look to you over there?
Maybe a little bit back.
It needs to go this way, right?
Yeah.
What about you guys over here? Does that look straight?
It needs to go a little bit this way, but it is straighter for sure.
Okay. So I'm gonna pull back, and you don't need a ton. Just make sure you get it underneath the actual tree. And like a little bit goes a long way.
Remember, you're looking at the bottom. How does that look?
Looks a lot better. Yeah.
From this side and that side, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I would say that looks straight. From your side, is it straight? Okay, cool.
What do you think?
Okay, so now we're just going to put a little bit of soil around the bottom and tamp it down just to secure the root ball where it is. And then we're going to remove the jute and all of the wrappings and put more soil on top in layers. And for every layer, we're going to compact it with our foot so that it's nice and solid. If you don't compact the soil, it again makes a lot of those air pockets where water can gather and cause rot and disease. So we want to make sure that that soil is nice and firm. This is also really, you guys are super lucky. This is very sandy soil today, which is very easy for digging, but it doesn't hold water very well. So we want to make sure that we really tamp that down so that the water doesn't just flow right through it and then the tree gets dry. And you'll notice as she's tamping, she's got one foot in and she is holding the shovel for balance. She is not holding the tree. Do not hold on to the tree. Once it's in the hole, you don't want to touch it because you could damage it or uncenter it. So now we've got the trees pretty secure. We're going to take off all of the wrappings. This is another time when you would call us over because we have knives. We can cut it off for you. Any questions so far? You You guys are feeling pumped to plant some cherry trees?
Yeah.
Cool.
Which cherry trees are we doing? Are we doing the sweet ones or?
There's 25 sweet and 25 sour varieties, so it's a mix.
Thank you.
But they are all fruiting cherry trees. So actually Belle Isle has a small grove of decorative cherry trees that were donated from like a partnership with a sister city in Japan. And Riverwalk is planting a bunch of decorative cherry trees along their new development on the lower part of Riverwalk. But this will be the only cherry orchard in Detroit that is a pedestrian food forest.
Nice.
Cherry growth. And actually in November when we start the pruning workshops with DP Fly, with Stathis, we're going to be doing that over the next 3 years. We'll have about 2 work days a year where you can come out and help us prune the trees to make sure they stay pedestrian height. Does anybody know what that means? As high as you are. So if you do like snow angels in the air, jumping jacks in the air, this is pedestrian height. I don't need a ladder to pick the fruit, right? Cherry trees grow really aggressively. They get really big, so we will need a lot of help when that time comes. Starting this November, we're going to be trimming the trees to keep them at that height so that as they are kind of establishing, they're getting a short structure so that in the next several years, once these start to fruit in about 3 to 5 years, people will be able to just come by the park and just pick fruit without bringing a ladder or anything extreme. Cool. So you can see they shoved all of the jute and the wire and everything kind of down the sides and compacted it, and then now we're going to start doing our layers of soil that we compact. And you'll notice that the tree is sitting at ground height. You want that root ball to be lined up with the soil. You don't want it to be lower than the soil because then what happens? It's a bowl, right? And then that will fill with water. You have sitting water, and what happens with sitting water? It rots and kills the tree. So when in doubt, it's better to err a smidge over than under.
Too low won't grow, too high won't die. Those are
I have one question. One question for you guys. One question. You mentioned earlier, you said that this soil was like a loamy soil. What's the difference? Like for some of us that are planting fruit trees or planting gardens in our yard, what kind of soil are we looking for?
So typically soil is usually like a mix of sand and clay. And this hole isn't too bad. You can see that this has a little bit more clay because it kind of sticks together. But because there's a marsh right here, a lot of this is very sandy. This used to be like a floodplain for the waterway, so there's a lot of sand deposits. Clay holds water really, really well. It also has a lot of nutrients that are good for plants. So heavy clay soil doesn't drain very well. Sandy soil doesn't have as many nutrients, but it also allows like water and roots to move really easily through the soil, so it's really well draining. Depending on the type of fruit tree, if it's like a water-loving fruit tree, you'd probably want to plant it in soil that's a little bit more clay heavy. If you don't have a lot of clay, you can plant or you can add supplements to the soil, like organic matter, or just get clay and mix it in to amend your soil. Fortunately, cherry trees are not, they like to have really good drainage. So this is a really nice spot to put the grove because we have a lot more sand than we do clay. And that means that the tree won't end up sitting in water and rotting the roots. Other fruit trees, you know, it's species by species, what kind of soil it's gonna like. The nice part about this being sandier soil for you guys is it's super easy. If you've ever been to the beach, so easy to dig in sand. I don't know if you've ever tried to dig in clay, but if it's dry, good luck. So,
What size rootstock are the trees on?
I think these are 1.5 caliber bagged and burlapped.
So is that like the dwarf, semi-dwarf?
So the dwarf, that's about the rootstock, and actually I don't know if these are dwarf trees, but typically if you're ordering fruit trees in bulk, the nurseries will usually do dwarf stock. So the rootstock, you can, in the nursery they might like graft another type of cherry tree to a dwarf stock to make sure that that tree doesn't get really, really tall. It's pretty common for cherry trees because, again, they're aggressive growers. They get really tall, so a lot of the ones you get from the nursery do have dwarf stock, but you want to ask the nursery because it may not always say. I don't think all of these are dwarf, though.
Rachel, if I could just chime in for one really quick thing on the topic of not planting too low. So just like Rachel was saying, cherry trees and a lot of other drupes or stone fruit, because they have a pit, right? Like fruit, peaches, apricots, cherries, all that good stuff. They're very sensitive to root rot, right? So we don't want water hanging out on the roots. And you'll also notice that, just like Rachel was saying, these are grafted, right? Most of the time when you buy a tree from any nursery, it's going to be grafted. So they picked one root, and then they picked a tree, scion, whatever, sciencey terms. But you'll see like there's a kind of a knobby part. That's where they connect the two, right? That's sort of like, imagine this had a transplant surgery, right? This is where they connected the two. This is also a bit more sensitive than the rest of the tree. So citizen foresters also just keep out, you want that grafting point to be about 3 to 4 inches above the ground. So if you do notice this sort of big knobby, sort of ankle looking thing, right? Give it a little bit more height off the ground, and citizen foresters just keep an eye out for that as well, okay?
So what he's saying is this is the bottom, not this.
Right.
Does that make sense? Okay.
All right.
All right, cool. So we got the hole filled pretty much, and now the where's our grass? Oh, right there. Oh, sorry. No worries, no worries. So now that we have the ground is kind of level around the tree, we still have a lot of soil left because we put a big root ball in the hole, right? So we took up some of that space. What we're gonna do now is take the sod, that kind of lasagna layer of sod that we took off the top. We're going to flip that grass down, and we're gonna create a little ring or a berm around this tree. And what that's gonna do is kind of help keep moisture inside the tree, create a barrier that protects against mowing, gives your planting a little bit more structure. So you can see that they're just putting it grass side down in a little circle around the tree.
Why do you think we want to put it grass side down?
Go back. Is it going to act as organic matter to help with the?
It will biodegrade,
Yeah.
Okay.
but it's also
So we want to kill this grass. We don't want the grass to take root and steal nutrients from the tree. So flip it down, it'll die, decompose.
yeah. And so once you've exhausted all of your soil, then we're going to start putting our mulch in the hole. And you want to try to make sure that think of your ring as like a levee or a wall around your tree. If you have gaps in you can see that they're squishing them together really well. They're not leaving big cracks in between. If we were to just kind of like place it around and there were big gaps, then when we fill this with water, what's going to happen? It's going to run all over the floor. So we want to think of making a bowl. Don't have any cracks in your bowl, otherwise it won't hold water, right? I usually like to put this on first. Doesn't really matter if you put this on first or afterwards, but I think it's easier to put it on first. The mulch, do we have zip ties or just pop it on? Okay. So these are a little bit, the reason I'm asking is because we don't usually use this type of tree guard. We usually use like a plastic blue one, but because these are fruit trees and there are a lot of deer in the park, this is super important. If you don't have like, even if you have a fenced yard, let's be real, the deer don't care if there's a fence. You want to make sure that you're protecting your baby trees because a deer is going to see this and think, oh, that's so fresh and green, I'm going to go rub on it and mark my area, get a little bit of a tree. So we need to make sure that we protect the trees from deer rub because they will knock over your tree and kill it if we don't protect it. So once you have it, your little berm on it, you're just going to gently pop that around the base of the tree, and then now we can start putting in our mulch.
The tree guards were ready. Make sure they'll come in.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Any questions so far? Related to planting or fruit trees? Anything you want to ask the science about fruit trees?
Straight and the top's gonna grow.
Or fly?
Overall, it'll look straight.
So when we're putting the mulch on,
Oh, bare root. Okay, I didn't realize you had bare root ones. Yeah, so for the bare root ones, you still have that one that you were showing about this. So we actually have two types. Sorry, I didn't realize. One is the burlapped and bag. That's a different variety. So because you remember I said we had some sweet and some sour. It looks like some of the one type is burlapped and one is bare root. So you can see
That's the bare root.
how
bare to
the
the root.
roots are kind of going out, right? We do want to compact this when we put it in and do our layers because we want this to be secure. We don't want the tree flopping around as we're working in the hole, but we also want to make sure that we're not stomping on it like we would this type of tree, right? Because this one, we know that burlap ball, we know where it is. So when we're stomping around it, we're not going to hit the roots of the tree, but with these types, it's underneath the soil that you're compacting, so you want to make sure that you're not hammering it down because you're going to break the roots. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. So just be gentle as you're tamping on the bare root trees.
Question about the bare root. When we're planting that, we're only going just below that knob, just like
Yeah, so
when we're digging?
Hastathis said this knob is the grafting point, and you don't want this to be too close to the soil, 2 to 3 inches. So what you're looking for when we say the base of the tree, you're looking for that point where it starts flaring out to roots.
Okay.
This is the bottom, not the ball. Okay? Sorry. You at that point, but then at least you know there's a bunch of Make sure you pay attention to your tree.
You know you killed the tree, okay?
You want to keep an eye on her because you know she's a little bit more vulnerable than your other trees. So this is right now, we see this is like a pretty sand-heavy soil, and the water is still sitting, so that tells us we did our job. It's compacted correctly, and it's slowly being absorbed into the soil.
If we're using a hose at home, do we do the same thing?
Do the same thing. If you have a hose, use a shovel to break the pressure of the water. You want it to hit the soil softly. You don't want to just dump water into it because you're going to wash it away. You do have 2 buckets at the tree.
One. Oh, right.
Hi. Remember the first step?
Yes. Measure.
Measure. There you go. You
With
measure
this.
that, and then you're going to dig a hole that's twice as wide as that root ball.
Okay, so
So like kind of like by the blue? Yeah.
to here,
Yep.
And then so, okay.
and now I'm gonna take
Where's the orange spot?
right. You're on it.
All right.
But now it's all here. So where am I actually?
Well, I guess that's part of like you cleaning right up with your neighbors. So I think this looks like the middle of X right here.
Okay.
So set your mark in the middle.
Mhm.
Just set your shovel right down, I think. All right. So we're gonna dig a hole this wide.
Does it look like? Oh, it's not even. It is not.
Yeah, it's going.
Unless it's going that way.
Oh, it's going. Oh, okay, okay. I guess. But then we're not aligned with them.
This X is over here.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay.
So
So, yeah,
it's,
we
it's
are.
diagonal. Okay.
So then this is probably the center. You think?
Well, no. So it's probably this.
It is over here. Okay.
It's this one because it's like it's going
Okay.
on like a.
And so we did it like
If
this.
you need more shovels here, everybody's supposed to have a shovel.
John, you brought the shovels, right? Did you bring shovels? No, everybody needs a shovel. Yeah.
John, thank you.
All right, so good. So what you'll do is you can, when you get another shovel, make a cut right here, like right here, and then you can move that around and be like, kind of make your circle cut, and then start cutting it up and dig out your chunks of sod.
Okay.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll also need once the shovel gets, once the hole gets dug, a measurement for the depth.
Yeah.
That's so much work.
Into that a little bit so you can see where the base of the tree
I don't think they're doing anything until 2025.
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When we were talking on the way over, we were just saying that it is difficult sometimes to kind of like get yourself out there, especially if you don't know people.
Yeah.
So like I had 2 friends, but one closer friend that just was on the last line, the 146, and so they're helpful in a way. One of the girls we kind of we don't like, she just kind of moved away, so I don't see her as much. But and then I have a friend who's in Ann Arbor, but she's in undergrad, so it's a little challenging. But we're talking about going to the events and like just it's helpful to have like other people who are going in the same boat, because now we at least that's helpful. So.
And then it's also different too, because we're like coming from your freshman undergrad as well.
You said what?
Your freshman undergrad. What year did you graduate?
I graduated in 2018. Yeah, I have a baby face. Yeah, the black don't crack over here.
You graduated senior. I graduated in 22.
Okay.
I'm kind of still fresh.
Yeah. When I was explaining to her, I'm like, when they were going to do an undergrad line in my school, I had just graduated and did like one like right after, like it was right after, and I was like, oh, that's great. So
Yeah. Okay, so go ahead and you said I can go ahead and start this?
Yeah, you can make your, start cutting through that side, make your bunch of
Come on. We needed one more.
I think one more maybe. Yeah.
Would you go get Here, Christian. Are you sure? Hey, Rob, would you come? Oh.
I need somebody to cut it.
We need somebody to help us. Well, we might got it. Okay, we are getting it. Okay, so we need more dirt.
Okay, here, let me help you.
Thank you.
Okay, so first thing we're gonna want to do is make sure it's straight, right? So let's twist it a little bit.
How don't you do that with ease?
Right.
I work here, so I'm all season. But for one tip, I learned, because I'm getting stronger.
Yeah.
But I learned if you kind of like sit and you use your feet, so I'm like not just pulling the front back.
Right.
I'm pushing off with my feet a little bit, so it kind of gives you some like leverage. But I also feel like I'm the strongest I've ever been from a
Oh, good.
Okay, so let's see. So we want to make it straight now, right? So what we should do, if I pull it, we're gonna put some dirt.
Okay.
Probably like under here a little bit.
Hey y'all, this is our tree TT, Trials and Tribulations. Woohoo! All right, we're moving on to the next one. We're doing a bare root now. All right, this is tree number 2. This one is Cutie Pie, and we are watering her. Woo-hoo.